No slave lasted with the master's twins, until Alara did the impossible. Their cruelty was legendary, their methods of torment refined to an art form. 27 servants had come before her, each one broken and fleeing into the night. But Alara wasn't like the others. What she would accomplish wouldn't just change the twins, it would shatter the very chains that bound them all. Blackwood Manor loomed against the stormy sky like a beast ready to devour all who entered. Its stone towers clawing at the thunderclouds, windows gleaming like hungry eyes in the fading light. The estate sprawled across acres of manicured gardens and dark forests, isolated from the nearest village by miles of winding roads. A deliberate choice by its master to keep prying eyes away from what transpired within those walls. The master, Lord Blackwood, was feared throughout the county not merely for his wealth or influence, but for the cold calculation in his eyes that suggested he viewed people as pieces on a chessboard, disposable and valuable only for their utility. But it was his children who made servants quit in droves, fleeing in the dead of night with haunted expressions and sometimes, whispered rumors claimed, visible scars, both physical and otherwise. As Alara's carriage rattled over the final bridge toward the imposing gates, the elderly driver crossed himself and couldn't help but warn her. His weathered face creased with genuine concern. "No one lasts with those devil twins," he muttered, glancing nervously at the gargoyles that adorned the entrance. "Not a fortnight, not a month. They'll break you like they broke all the others. Something ain't right with those two, something dark in their souls." The massive iron gates swung open with an ominous creak that seemed to Alara like the maw of some ancient predator welcoming its next meal. What the driver didn't know was that Alara had already survived hell. She carried invisible scars that had hardened her spirit rather than broken it. When she stepped into the grand entrance hall with its towering ceilings and ancestral portraits that seemed to follow her every move with judgmental eyes. The household staff exchanged knowing glances. "Another lamb for the slaughter," their expressions said. Some looked at her with pity, others with a detached curiosity, as if wondering how long this one would last before running screaming into the night. The housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, a severe woman with iron-gray hair pulled into a tight bun that seemed to stretch her skin painfully across her skull, barely bothered with pleasantries. Her voice carried the weariness of someone who had given up hope of stability long ago. "The East Wing is forbidden," she said flatly, not bothering to explain why as she led Alara through corridors that seemed designed to disorient. The last girl lasted 3 weeks before she was found sobbing in the garden shed. The one before her, just 5 days, left without even collecting her wages. "I'd start planning your departure now. Save yourself the trouble. The twins will make certain you don't stay." A maid passing by with downcast eyes whispered, "They always know your fears, even the ones you don't speak of." She hurried away before Mrs. Winters could reprimand her. But what the household didn't know was that Alara wasn't like anyone they'd seen before. Where others brought fear to this house of nightmares, she carried something far more dangerous: understanding. And as the distant laughter of children, too cold and calculated to belong to innocence, echoed down the hallway, Alara straightened her spine and smiled. The twins found her before she had even unpacked her meager belongings. They materialized in her doorway like apparitions, identical in their appearance, but somehow fundamentally different in the darkness they carried. "You're the new one," said the boy, Alaric, his voice deceptively gentle. His sister, Lilith, circled behind Alara with predatory grace. "Number 28, Lilith added, reaching out to touch a lock of Alara's hair. "We've been keeping count." Alara didn't flinch. didn't step away. Instead, she met their gaze directly, something no servant had dared before. "And you're the children who believe fear makes you powerful," she replied calmly. The twins exchanged a glance, momentarily thrown by her composure. They were beautiful children, 12 years old with raven-black hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed too old for their young faces. Their matching outfits, expensive, perfectly tailored, only emphasized the unnatural symmetry between them. "We'll see how brave you are tonight," Alaric whispered, his smile not reaching his eyes. The others all screamed by morning. "We've prepared something special," Lilith added, her delicate fingers tracing patterns on the bedpost. "Since you're so different." After they left, Mrs. Winters appeared with a tray of tea, her eyes widening when she saw Alara calmly arranging her clothes. "They've already visited you," she stated, not a question. "Yet you're still unpacking." "They're just children," Alara said. Mrs. Winters nearly dropped the tray. "No," she said, her voice suddenly hoarse. "They're not. Not anymore. Whatever they once were died with their mother." That night, Alara woke to find her room transformed. The walls seemed to bleed shadows, and whispers echoed from the corners. A doll, crafted to look exactly like her, sat at the foot of her bed, its throat slashed with red thread, pins driven through its limbs. Most servants had fled at this first warning. Instead, Alara picked up the doll, carried it down the hall to the twins' separate rooms, and placed half the doll outside each door. She'd cut it precisely down the middle. By morning, the household was abuzz. The twins had not emerged for breakfast, unprecedented in the staff's memory. When they finally appeared at midday, they watched Alara with newfound wariness. The battle lines had been drawn. But unlike those who came before her, Alara understood a fundamental truth. The twins weren't monsters by nature. They were weapons, forged in grief and wielded by a father who had long ago abandoned his responsibility to heal their broken hearts. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in Blackwood Manor shifted. The manor, once filled with whispered fears and stifled sobs, now held a strange tension, a silent acknowledgement that Alara was different. The twins, Alaric and Lilith, began to observe her with a mixture of curiosity and caution, their initial bravado giving way to intrigue. Alara's mornings were spent in the sprawling kitchen, where the staff welcomed her as a breath of fresh air. She quickly became adept at avoiding the sharp tongues of the older servants, who seemed to relish the stories of the twins' cruelty. Instead, she focused on her tasks, her hands moving deftly as she prepared meals, tended to the sprawling vegetable garden, and even helped with the laundry. But her mind was always on the twins, and she noticed the subtle patterns in their behavior. Their laughter echoed through the halls like a haunting melody, sometimes accompanied by the muffled cries of the unfortunate souls who had come before her. They played games that involved both torment and manipulation, drawing servants into their web of psychological terror. Alara understood that to survive, she would need to play along, at least for a while. One afternoon, while dusting the grand library, Alara stumbled upon a collection of journals belonging to the twins' late mother. The pages were filled with elegant handwriting, detailing her dreams for her children, her hopes for a brighter future, and her deep love for them. Yet, as the entries progressed, the tone shifted to one of despair. The mother's fears about Lord Blackwood's growing darkness seeped through the ink. Alara felt a pang of sorrow. The twins were not just monsters. They were children shaped by loss and neglect, their innocence stolen by a father who had turned his back on them. Determined to reach the twins on some level, she began leaving small tokens in their path. Charcoal sketches of them as children playing in a sunlit field. A simple flower pressed between the pages of a book they often read. Each gesture was met with silence. But Alara persisted, determined to break through the walls they had built around their hearts. One evening, while the household dined, Alara took a chance. She stood up, raising her glass towards the twins. "To the future," she said, her voice steady. "To new beginnings." The room fell silent, all eyes on her. The twins exchanged a glance, surprise flickering across their features. "To new beginnings," Alaric echoed, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Lilith's eyes sparkled with something akin to mischief. "Perhaps you're not as dull as the others," she said, her tone teasing. "But don't think we'll go easy on you." Alara smiled back, the tension in the room easing just a fraction. "I wouldn't want it any other way." That night, the twins summoned her to the garden, where the moonlight painted everything in shades of silver. "Let's play a game," Lilith proposed, her voice sultry and enticing. A game of truth and dare. Alara felt a thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension. This was a chance to engage with them, to understand their world. She nodded, her heart racing. "Truth or dare?" Alaric asked, his eyes glinting in the moonlight. "Truth," she replied, steeling herself. "Why did you come here?" he inquired, his gaze piercing through her defenses. Alara took a deep breath. "Because I want to make a difference. I believe you both can be more than what you've become." Lilith laughed, a sound that sent chills down Alara's spine. "You think you can change us? How quaint." "Perhaps," Alara replied, undeterred. "But only if you let me try." The twins exchanged a look, and Alara sensed a shift in the air, a moment of vulnerability, a crack in their carefully constructed armor. "Dare," Lilith said suddenly, her voice low. "I dare you to spend the night in the East Wing." Alara's heart raced. The East Wing was infamous, rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those who had fallen victim to the twins' games. Yet, the challenge ignited something within her. "Fine," she said, her voice steady. "I accept." With that, the game escalated. The twins laughed, a sound that was both playful and ominous, and Alara felt the weight of their expectations settling upon her shoulders. She would not only survive, she would strive to thrive, to turn their games into something more than just cruelty. As she made her way through the darkened halls of the East Wing, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. She could feel the weight of the manor's history pressing down on her. With each creak of the floorboards, she steeled herself against the fear that threatened to engulf her. In the depths of the East Wing, Alara found a room that seemed untouched by time, a nursery filled with dusty toys and faded memories. The walls echoed with laughter that had long since faded, and for a moment she allowed herself to imagine the twins as they once were. Innocent children with dreams, before loss had twisted them into shadows of their former selves. As she settled onto the floor, wrapped in a tattered blanket, Alara closed her eyes and whispered a silent promise to the twins. She would not give up. She would not falter. She would find a way to reach them, to break the cycle of pain that had held them captive for far too long. And as the night deepened, the shadows began to shift. The first hints of a battle for their souls unfolding in the heart of Blackwood Manor. The night deepened, and Alara felt the weight of silence wrap around her like a shroud. The crumbling walls of the East Wing seemed to hold their breath as if the very air was charged with the memories of the past, echoes of laughter, the sound of small feet running across the floor, and the whisper of secrets shared in the twilight. Yet, as she sat amidst the remnants of innocence, a chill crept into her bones, and the shadows began to stir. Each creak of the floorboards felt like a ghostly caress, and she clutched the tattered blanket tighter around her shoulders, drawing strength from its worn fibers. For a moment, she allowed herself to think of the twins, Alaric and Lilith, as they once were, before they had become the instruments of fear that haunted the manor. She imagined them playing with their toys, their laughter ringing out like silver bells, unmarred by grief. But the reality of their existence now loomed heavy, and she knew that this facade of innocence was long gone. In the stillness, a strange sound broke through the quiet, a soft rustling that seemed to emanate from the far corner of the room. Alara's heart raced as she turned her head, squinting into the darkness. The dim light from the hallway barely penetrated the shadows, but she could make out the outline of an old rocking horse, its paint chipped and faded. It swayed gently, as if stirred by an unseen hand. "What are you doing here?" a voice whispered, quiet and haunting, sending shivers down her spine. Alara's breath caught in her throat. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. A figure emerged from the darkness. A small girl, perhaps no more than 8 years old, her hair cascading like spun gold around her shoulders. But there was something ethereal about her, her presence flickering in and out of focus, as if she were a wisp of smoke caught in the moonlight. "I'm Sophie," the girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I used to play here, before they came." "Before who came?" Alara asked, her curiosity piqued. "Before the twins?" Sophie nodded, her expression turning somber. "They were different then. They were sweet. We used to have tea parties and play games. But their mother, she got sick. And when she died, everything changed." The weight of the girl's words hung in the air, and Alara felt a pang of empathy for the twins. They were not just cruel. They were products of a broken home, molded by grief into something unrecognizable. "Why are you still here?" Alara asked gently, her heart aching for the lost child. "Why haven't you moved on?" Sophie looked down at her feet, her small hands twisting anxiously. "I can't leave. I promised them I would stay and watch over them. But now, they don't even remember me. They're so lost." Alara's resolve hardened. "I'll help them remember," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I'll bring you back to them. They need to know they're not alone." Sophie's eyes brightened with hope, but it faded as quickly as it appeared. "They won't listen. They're too far gone. They think I'm just a shadow." "Then I'll show them you're real," Alara promised, her mind racing with strategies. "I'll find a way to help them see the truth." As the conversation unfolded, Alara felt a connection forming, a bond forged in the shared understanding of loss and longing. Sophie's presence filled the room with a warmth that steadied Alara's resolve. Suddenly, the air shifted, the temperature dropping as the shadows deepened. Alara felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over her. "We need to be careful," she warned. "The twins might sense us here. If they find out—" But before she could finish, the door creaked open, and Alaric stepped into the room, his eyes narrowing as they landed on Alara. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, a mixture of anger and curiosity flashing across his face. Alara's heart raced as she met his gaze, refusing to show fear. "I came to explore," she said, trying to sound casual, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Exploring in the East Wing? "You must be braver than I thought," he replied, moving closer with a predatory grace. "Or perhaps just foolish." "Leave her alone, Alaric," Sophie interjected, stepping protectively in front of Alara. "She's not like the others. She wants to help." Alaric's brow furrowed, confusion mingling with skepticism. Help? What could she possibly do? He looked from Sophie to Alara, his expression hardening. "You should go back to your room, Alara. This place isn't safe for you." Alara took a step forward, emboldened by her newfound friendship with Sophie. "You're wrong, Alaric. This place is full of echoes of what you once were. You need to remember who you are." The tension in the room crackled like electricity, and for a moment, Alara thought she saw a flicker of recognition in Alaric's eyes. But it vanished as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by the familiar coldness. "Don't speak to me about who I am," he hissed, his voice low and threatening. "You know nothing of our lives, of our pain." "I know enough," Alara countered, her voice steady. "I know that you're trapped in this cycle of fear and anger, but it doesn't have to be this way. You can break free." "Enough!" Alaric shouted, and the walls seemed to shudder at the force of his voice. "You think you can change us? You think you can save us? You're just another servant, another pawn in our father's game." Alara stepped back, her heart pounding. "I'm not a pawn," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'm here because I want to make a difference. I want to help you both." But before she could say more, a cold wind swept through the room, chilling her to the bone. Shadows danced along the walls, and she felt a presence moving just beyond her line of sight. "Leave this place," Alaric warned, his voice now tinged with fear. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "Then help me understand," Alara replied desperately. "Help me help you." But instead of answering, Alaric turned abruptly, retreating into the shadows, leaving Alara and Sophie alone once more. "What have you done?" Sophie whispered, her voice trembling. "You shouldn't have challenged him." "I had to," Alara replied, her heart racing. "He needs to remember what he's lost. They both do." Sophie looked at her with wide eyes, the flicker of hope dimming. "But what if they don't want to remember? What if they like the darkness?" Alara felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but she could not turn back now. She had made a promise to Sophie, and she would do everything in her power to fulfill it. "Then we'll show them," Alara said, determination hardening in her chest. "We'll illuminate the darkness with the light of their past. Together, we can bring them back." As the shadows loomed around them, Alara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. The fight for the twins' hearts had begun, and she was ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The air grew thicker as Alara sat in the nursery, her mind racing with possibilities. The encounter with Alaric had sent ripples of uncertainty through her, but she was determined not to let fear dictate her actions. She had come too far to back down now. Sophie's presence filled the room with a warmth that contrasted sharply against the cold shadows, and Alara felt a flicker of courage ignite within her. "Tell me more about them," Alara urged Sophie, eager to understand the twins on a deeper level. What were they like before? Everything changed. Sophie's expression shifted, a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow crossing her delicate features. "They were so happy," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "We'd play in the gardens for hours, pretending to be knights and princesses. Alaric was always the brave knight, and Lilith, she was the queen, strong and wise. They loved each other fiercely." A soft smile ghosted across Sophie's lips as she spoke, but it faded quickly, replaced by a shadow of grief. But when their mother fell ill, everything changed. Their father became distant, consumed by his own ambition. The laughter faded, and darkness seeped into the house like a thick fog. They started to turn on each other, and then on everyone else. Alara listened intently, her heart aching for the children who had once filled these halls with joy. "What happened to their mother?" she asked gently. "She died," Sophie replied, tears welling in her eyes. "It broke them. After that, they became different. They began to play cruel games, turning their pain into something dark and twisted. They did things to the servants, things that made them leave in terror. I couldn't bear to watch, but I couldn't leave either. I promised them I would stay." Alara felt a surge of empathy. "You loved them, didn't you?" Sophie nodded, her small frame trembling. "I still do. I just want them to remember who they were. I want them to be free again." Alara took a deep breath, her resolve strengthening. "Then we need a plan. We have to show them that love still exists, that they can still be the children they once were." As Sophie nodded, the shadows in the room seemed to deepen, swirling around them like a tempest. Alara glanced around, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon her. The manor was alive with memories, some sweet, others bitter, and they pressed in on her, eager to be acknowledged. "We should start with the garden," Alara suggested. "It was once a place of joy for them, filled with laughter and sunlight. If we can recreate that atmosphere, maybe they'll remember." "I can help," Sophie exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "There's a hidden spot behind the old stone wall where the flowers bloom the brightest. Alaric and Lilith used to play there all the time." "Then that's where we'll begin," Alara said, her spirit lifted by Sophie's excitement. "Let's go tonight." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the manor, Alara and Sophie slipped out of the nursery and made their way through the dimly lit corridors. Alara felt a sense of purpose guiding her steps, and Sophie's presence beside her was a comforting reminder of the hope they both carried. They reached the garden, a wild expanse that had once been meticulously cared for, but now lay overgrown and tangled. Moonlight illuminated the twisted vines and forgotten paths, creating an air of mystery. Alara could almost hear the echoes of laughter on the wind as they stepped into the garden. "This is it," Sophie said, pointing to a small archway covered in ivy. "This is where we used to play." Alara's heart raced as she pushed aside the tangled vines, revealing a hidden alcove filled with vibrant flowers, their colors glowing softly in the moonlight. "It's beautiful," she breathed, kneeling to touch the delicate petals. "We can bring it back to life." Together, they began to clear away the weeds, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. Alara felt a sense of freedom as she worked, the burdens of the manor lifting with each flower they uncovered. She could almost hear the twins' laughter joining theirs, a haunting melody that filled the air with possibility. As they toiled, the shadows around them began to shift, dark shapes moving just beyond the edge of their vision. Alara could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching, but she pushed the fear aside, focusing on the task at hand. "Let's make it a place of magic," Alara suggested, her imagination igniting. "We can create a fairy garden, filled with stories and dreams." Sophie's eyes sparkled with delight. "Yes, we'll need twinkling lights and more flowers. We can make it a place where they can remember." As they worked, Alara shared stories of her own childhood, of adventures she'd had, of dreams that had once felt limitless. Sophie listened intently, her laughter ringing out like silver bells, a sound that seemed to chase away the shadows for a moment. But the moment was fleeting, as they continued to transform the alcove into a sanctuary of light and color. A chill swept through the air, and Alara felt a sense of foreboding settle over them. "Something isn't right," she murmured, glancing around nervously. "We should hurry." Just then, the garden erupted with a sudden wind, sending leaves swirling around them like a cyclone. Alara stumbled back, her heart racing. "Sophie!" she cried, reaching for the girl. But Sophie was staring into the depths of the garden, her expression shifting to one of horror. "They're here," she gasped, her voice trembling. "The twins!" Alara turned, her pulse quickening as she saw the figures emerging from the shadows. Alaric and Lilith stood at the edge of the garden, framed by the moonlight, their expressions unreadable. "Playing in the garden again?" Alaric said, his voice smooth but laced with an unsettling edge. "How quaint." Lilith stepped forward, her eyes glinting with mischief. "We thought you might want to join us in our games." Alara's heart raced, but she forced herself to stand tall. "We're not playing your games," she declared. "We're creating something beautiful, a place for you to remember who you were." "Remember?" Alaric scoffed, his expression hardening. "Why would we want to remember? The past is nothing but a chain that binds us." "But it can also be a source of strength," Alara countered, stepping forward. "You don't have to remain trapped in darkness. There's still light within you." Lilith's laughter echoed through the garden, cold and mocking. "Light? You think you can save us with your flowers and fairy tales? You're delusional." Sophie, standing beside Alara, took a deep breath. "You used to love this place," she said, her voice steady. "You used to play here without fear. Don't you remember?" For a moment, a flicker of something, vulnerability, crossed Alaric's face, but it quickly vanished. "We don't need your pity," he snapped, "and we certainly don't need your memories." "Maybe not," Alara replied, her heart pounding. "But you're still here, standing in the light. You can choose to embrace it." Lilith stepped closer, her gaze piercing. "And what if we choose to destroy it instead?" The air crackled with tension, and Alara felt the weight of their words hanging over her like a storm cloud. But she refused to back down. "Then you would only be hurting yourselves. I believe there's still hope for you both." Alaric's expression hardened, but for a brief moment, Alara saw the boy. He once was flickering behind the darkness. "Hope is a dangerous thing," he said, his voice low. "It can cut deeper than any blade." "Then let's use it to heal," Alara urged, stepping closer. "You don't have to be bound by your pain. You can choose to remember the joy, the laughter, the love that once filled this garden." The twins exchanged a glance, and in that fleeting moment, Alara felt a shift in the atmosphere. The shadows around them seemed to retreat slightly, as if they were considering her words. But just as quickly, the darkness returned, and Alaric's expression hardened once more. "Enough of this nonsense. You're just another servant, another fleeting shadow in our lives." Alara's heart sank, but she wouldn't give up. "I may be just a servant, but I care about you both. I want to help you find your way back." Lilith stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "What makes you think we want to be saved? What if we like the darkness?" "Then I'll show you that darkness can be transformed into light," Alara said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "But you have to let me in. You have to want it." The twins hesitated, the tension in the air palpable. The garden, once filled with the echoes of laughter and joy, now felt like a battleground of wills. "Let's make a deal," Alaric proposed, a sly smile creeping onto his lips. "If you can withstand our games for one night, we'll consider your offer. But if you fail—" "I won't fail," Alara interrupted, her determination unwavering. "I'll prove that you can find your way back to the light." Lilith's laughter rang through the garden, chilling and captivating. "Very well, Alara. Let the games begin." As the moon hung high above, casting its silvery light upon the garden, Alara steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The battle for the twins' hearts had only just begun, and she would fight with every ounce of strength she possessed. With Sophie by her side, they would navigate the darkness together, illuminating the path back to the light, one step at a time. The echoes of the past would guide them, and perhaps, just perhaps, they could reclaim the joy that had once filled Blackwood Manor. The garden buzzed with tension as the twins' challenge hung in the air, its implications swirling like the autumn leaves around them. Alara felt a mixture of fear and determination coursing through her veins. She knew this was no ordinary game. This was a battle for the souls of the twins, a chance to draw them back from the precipice of darkness. "Let's make it interesting," Alaric said, his voice smooth, almost playful. "We'll play a game of truth and dare, our way. If you can survive until dawn, we'll consider your offer. But if you falter, you'll wish you hadn't crossed us." Alara met his gaze, her heart racing. "I accept your challenge. But know this: I will not let fear dictate my actions. I will face whatever you throw my way." Lilith clapped her hands together, a sinister smile spreading across her face. "Oh, this will be delightful. Let the games begin." The twins exchanged glances, and as the atmosphere shifted, Alara felt the weight of their malevolence. She steeled herself, focusing on the flicker of hope that burned within her. Sophie stood beside her, a look of concern etched on her young face. "Stay close to me," Alara whispered. "We'll face this together." Alaric stepped forward, his demeanor shifting from playful to predatory. "Let's start with the truth, shall we?" He leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. "What's your greatest fear, Alara?" Alara could feel the challenge in his eyes, but she refused to be intimidated. "My greatest fear is losing hope," she replied honestly, her voice steady. "Hope is what drives me to fight, to believe that there is still light in this world, even in the darkest places." The twins exchanged a look, and for a moment, Alara thought she saw a flicker of something in their eyes. Curiosity, perhaps, but it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. "Interesting," Alaric said, his tone mocking. "But let's see how you handle a dare. I dare you to spend 1 hour in the old cellar, alone. The one where the shadows whisper." Alara felt a chill run down her spine at the thought of the cellar, a place steeped in dark rumors and dread. But she wouldn't back down. "Fine," she said, her voice unwavering. "I'll do it." "Good," Lilith said, her eyes gleaming with delight. "But we'll give you a head start. You have until the count of 10. As Alaric began to count, Alara's heart raced. She turned and ran towards the manor, Sophie trailing closely behind her. The shadows seemed to reach out from the corners, clawing at her as she made her way to the cellar door, its heavy frame looming ominously in front of her. "Wait, Alara," Sophie called out, her voice filled with concern. "You don't have to do this." "I need to show them I'm not afraid," Alara replied, steeling herself against the creeping dread. "I'll be okay. I promise." With a final glance back at Sophie, she pushed open the cellar door and stepped inside. the darkness swallowing her whole. The air was musty and thick, filled with the scent of damp earth and decay. As the door creaked shut behind her, Alara felt her heart pounding in her chest. She reached for the wall, her fingers brushing against the cool stone, guiding her deeper into the shadows. The cellar was a labyrinth of forgotten memories, and she could almost hear the whispers echoing around her. "Face your fears, Alara," she murmured to herself, her voice breaking the oppressive silence. "You can do this." As she ventured further into the darkness, she began to notice strange symbols etched into the walls, glowing faintly in the darkness. They seemed to pulse with energy, each one telling a story of pain and sorrow, of lost dreams and shattered hopes. Alara took a deep breath, focusing on the symbols, letting their energy wash over her. She could feel the weight of the past pressing down on her, but she refused to let it consume her. Instead, she drew strength from the stories, from the knowledge that she was not alone. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the cellar, extinguishing the faint light from the symbols. Alara felt a chill race down her spine, and she turned, her heart racing. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. A figure emerged from the shadows, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. Alara squinted, trying to make out the features of the apparition, and her breath caught in her throat when she recognized the face. It was Sophie, but not the living girl she had come to know. This version of Sophie was translucent, her eyes filled with sorrow and longing. "Alara," the ghostly figure whispered, her voice echoing in the darkness. "You must be careful. The twins are lost in their own darkness. They don't remember what it means to be loved." "I know," Alara replied, her heart aching. "But I'm trying to help them. I won't give up." "You have to show them the truth," Sophie urged, her form flickering. "They need to remember the joy, the laughter, the love. But you must be wary. Their pain runs deep, and they will try to drag you down with them." "I won't let them," Alara vowed, her determination solidifying. "I will bring them back." With that, the ghostly figure of Sophie began to fade, her expression shifting to one of hope. "Find the light within them, Alara. It's still there, buried beneath the shadows." As Sophie's presence dissipated, Alara felt a surge of energy flood through her. She turned and began to make her way back through the cellar, her heart racing with newfound purpose. Emerging from the darkness, she pushed open the door and stepped back into the moonlit garden. The twins were waiting for her, their expressions unreadable. "Did you survive?" Alaric asked, his tone a mixture of amusement and curiosity. "Yes," Alara replied, her voice steady. "And I learned something important." "Do tell," Lilith said, her interest piqued. "Fear is only as powerful as you allow it to be," Alara said, meeting their gazes with unwavering strength. "And I refuse to let it control me. I believe there's still light within you, buried beneath the darkness." The twins exchanged a glance, and for a fleeting moment, doubt flickered in their eyes. But it was quickly replaced by the familiar coldness. "Enough of this," Alaric said, his tone dismissive. "Let's move on to the next dare." Alara's heart sank, but she refused to let it show. "What's next?" "We'll see how well you can handle the shadows," Lilith said, a wicked grin spreading across her face. "I dare you to find the heart of the manor, the place where the darkness is strongest. Bring back a token from that place, and we'll consider your next challenge." Alara felt a shiver run down her spine at the thought of venturing deeper into Blackwood Manor, but she steeled herself. I accept your dare. Good, Alaric said, his eyes gleaming with delight. You have until the first light of dawn. As the twins stepped back, their laughter echoing through the garden, Alara turned toward the manor, her heart racing. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in around her, but she refused to let fear dictate her actions. With each step she took, she felt Sophie's words echoing in her mind. Find the light within them. Alara would not only face the darkness of the manor, but also confront the twins' pain, determined to uncover the truth buried within their hearts. She would bring them back to the light, no matter the cost. As she approached the entrance to the manor, the door creaked open, revealing a sprawling hallway shrouded in darkness. A chill ran down her spine, but she pressed on, her heart filled with determination. The echoes of the past whispered around her, guiding her deeper into the shadows. She would find the heart of the manor and confront the darkness that had claimed the twins for far too long. The game was far from over, and Alara was ready for whatever lay ahead. Alara stepped into the depths of Blackwood Manor, the air thick with an oppressive silence that swallowed her whole. Each creak of the floorboards beneath her feet echoed like a distant heartbeat, a reminder of the darkness that permeated every corner of the house. She could feel the weight of memories pressing in on her, the shadows whispering secrets of despair and loss. Determined to find the heart of the manor, she recalled the stories she had heard from the staff. Tales of a hidden chamber where Lord Blackwood had conducted dark rituals, seeking power at the expense of his family's happiness. It was said to be a place steeped in sorrow, where the echoes of the past lingered like a heavy fog. As she ventured deeper into the manor, the walls seemed to close in around her, each turn leading her further into the labyrinthine corridors. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows, and she could almost hear the whispers of the spirits trapped within the walls, their voices a haunting melody that tugged at her heart. Alara, she murmured to herself, her voice steady but quiet. You can do this. You're not alone. With each step, she felt Sophie's presence beside her, a comforting reminder of the bond they shared. The ghostly girl had been a guiding light in this dark place, and Alara was determined to honor that connection by confronting the shadows that had claimed the twins. After what felt like an eternity of navigating the winding halls, Alara found herself standing before a heavy wooden door, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that depicted scenes of both beauty and despair. This had to be it, the heart of the manor. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open, its hinges creaking in protest. The room beyond was dimly lit, filled with an array of strange artifacts and dusty books. At the center stood an ornate altar, covered in dark velvet and adorned with flickering candles. The air crackled with a palpable energy, and Alara could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down upon her. As she stepped inside, a chill ran through her body, and the shadows seemed to dance at the edges of her vision. She quickly scanned the room, searching for anything that might serve as a token, a symbol of the darkness that had taken root in this place. Her eyes landed on a small, intricately carved box, its surface etched with symbols that pulsed faintly in the darkness. Approaching cautiously, she reached out and opened it, revealing a collection of objects: a tarnished locket, a frayed ribbon, and a small weathered diary. Alara picked up the diary, her heart racing as she flipped through the pages. The handwriting was familiar. It belonged to the twins' mother. The entries spoke of love, dreams, and hopes for her children. But as the pages turned, the tone shifted to one of despair, detailing the darkness that had begun to consume their lives. They need to remember her, Alara whispered, her heart aching for the pain the twins had endured. They need to remember the love that once filled this place. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the chamber, and Alara jumped, clutching the diary to her chest. The shadows coiled around her, and she could sense a presence approaching, something dark and malevolent. "Who dares enter this place?" A voice boomed, reverberating off the stone walls. It was deep and chilling, sending a shiver down her spine. I'm Alara," she stammered, forcing herself to stand tall despite the fear gripping her heart. "I'm here to confront the darkness that has taken hold of this manor." The shadows swirled around her, and a figure emerged from the darkness. Lord Blackwood himself, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You think you can challenge me?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You are but a child, lost in a game far beyond your understanding." "I may be a child," Alara replied, her voice steady. "But I refuse to let fear control me. I know the truth about your family. I know the love that was once here." "Love is weak," he spat, advancing towards her. "It is a fleeting emotion that leaves only pain in its wake. I sought power, and in doing so, I claim this manor as my own." Alara could feel the darkness swirling around him, threatening to suffocate her. "But at what cost?" she asked, her voice rising above the oppressive weight of his presence. "You lost your family, your humanity. The twins are suffering because of you." His expression twisted, with rage, and the shadows writhed in response. "They are mine to control. They will learn the truth of power just as I have." "No!" Alara shouted, her heart racing. "They don't have to follow in your footsteps. You can't keep them trapped in this darkness. They need to remember who they are." Lord Blackwood laughed, a sound that echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You think you can save them? They are already lost to me." Alara's resolve hardened. "Not if I can show them the truth. Not if I can remind them of their mother's love." With that, she held up the diary, the pages fluttering in the draft. "This is a piece of their past, an echo of the love that once filled this manor. If they can see it, if they can remember, then maybe there's still hope." The shadows shuddered, and for a moment, Lord Blackwood's expression faltered. "You dare to invoke her name?" he hissed, his voice low and menacing. "Yes," Alara said, her voice unwavering, "because she was a beacon of love in this darkness. Her light can still reach them, and I will bring it back." As she spoke, the energy in the room shifted. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if afraid of the truth she wielded. Alara could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against her, but she refused to back down. "You've held them for too long," she declared, her voice rising in defiance. "It's time to let them go." Lord Blackwood's rage swelled, and the shadows surged forward, but Alara stood her ground, holding the diary close. "I won't let you take them," she cried. In that moment, she felt a surge of warmth emanating from the diary, and the symbols etched into the walls began to glow with a soft light. The shadows writhed, caught in the light's embrace, and Alara could sense the power of the love contained within the pages. "Feel her love," she shouted, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Let it fill this place." The shadows recoiled, and Lord Blackwood's expression twisted with fury. "No, you cannot do this." But Alara pressed on, her heart filled with determination. "You can't keep them in darkness forever. They deserve to be free." As the light from the diary enveloped her, she felt a connection to the twins, Alaric and Lilith, stronger than ever. In that moment, she sent out a call for them, a beacon of hope piercing through the shadows. "Remember, she cried, her voice ringing clear. Remember who you are. Remember your mother's love. The shadows surged and writhed, and Alara could feel the room tremble around her. The energy crackled, and suddenly the twins appeared in the doorway, their expressions a mixture of confusion and fear. What's happening? Alaric shouted, his voice strained as he took a step forward. Join me, Alara called, her heart racing. We can break free together. You don't have to be trapped in this darkness. Lilith hesitated, glancing at her. Brother. But Alara could see the flicker of doubt in their eyes. Come on, Alara urged, the light from the diary intensifying. Remember the love that was once here. Remember who you were. Slowly, the twins stepped forward, drawn by the light. As they approached, the shadows recoiled from them, as if fearing the awakening of the love they had long forgotten. Mom, Lilith whispered, her voice barely audible. Mom's love. Yes, Alara encouraged, her heart pounding with hope. Feel it. Let it guide you back. Suddenly, Lord Blackwood roared in fury, the shadows swirling violently around him. No, you will not take them from me. But Alara stood firm, the light radiating from the diary pushing back against the darkness. They are not yours to control. They belong to themselves. The twins hesitated at the edge of the light, fear etched on their faces. But Alara reached out to them, her heart open and vulnerable. You can choose to embrace the light. You can choose to break free. As if in response, the glow from the diary intensified, illuminating the chamber with a brilliant light. The shadows writhed and twisted, screaming in protest as the twins took another hesitant step forward. Stay with me, Alara urged, her voice filled with conviction. You are stronger than this darkness. In that moment, the twins' eyes met hers, and something shifted within them. The flicker of hope ignited into a flame, illuminating the shadows that had long held them captive. Mom? Alaric whispered, tears streaming down his face. I remember. And with that, the twins stepped into the light, their hearts opening to the love that had once filled the manor. The shadows recoiled in agony, and Alara felt a surge of power wash over her, the darkness finally beginning to lift. Lord Blackwood's enraged cries echoed in the chamber. But Alara knew they would not be silenced. The love they had reclaimed was stronger than any darkness, and together they would break the chains that had bound them for so long. As the light enveloped them, Alara felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. The heart of the manor had been awakened, and the echoes of love would forever resonate within its walls. The twins, once lost, would find their way back, and the darkness that had haunted Blackwood Manor would finally be banished. In that moment, Alara realized that love was the true power that could conquer all, even the deepest shadows. And as the dawn broke over the horizon, the light of a new beginning illuminated their path, guiding them towards a brighter future. As the first rays of sunlight streamed through the dusty windows of Blackwood Manor, the oppressive darkness began to lift. Alara stood amidst the remnants of the night's turmoil, the light illuminating the chamber and casting away the shadows that had long held sway over the manor. She could still feel the echoes of Lord Blackwood's fury reverberating through the walls. But now the air was filled with a different energy, one of hope, resilience, and newfound strength. Alaric and Lilith stood beside her, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and wonder as they processed the events of the night. The diary, still clutched in Alara's hands, seemed to pulse with warmth, a reminder of the love that had brought them to this moment. Did we really just... Lilith's voice trailed off, her eyes wide as she looked at her brother. Did we break free? Alara nodded, a smile breaking across her face. Yes, you both faced the darkness and chose to embrace the light. You remembered who you were. Alaric looked around the chamber, taking in the artifacts that had been steeped in sorrow for so long. But what happens now? He asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Can we really go back to how things were? You can, Alara assured him, her heart swelling with hope. You have the power to reclaim your lives. It won't be easy, but you're not alone. You have each other and the love of your mother. That will guide you. As they stood together, the sunlight continued to pour into the room, illuminating the once dim chamber with warmth and clarity. The oppressive weight of the past began to fade, revealing the beauty of the manor that had been hidden beneath layers of darkness. Suddenly, a soft voice filled the air, gentle and soothing. My dear children. Alaric and Lilith turned, their eyes widening in shock. Before them stood the ghostly figure of their mother, her presence radiant and enveloped in light. She looked exactly as they remembered, her kind eyes sparkling with love, her smile warm and inviting. Mother, Lilith gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks. Is it really you? Yes, my loves, she replied, her voice a soothing balm to their troubled hearts. You have shown great courage and strength. I have watched over you, even in the darkest of times. Alara stepped back, allowing the twins to embrace their mother, the air around them shimmering with emotion. It was a moment of healing that transcended time, a reunion that would mend the wounds inflicted by years of sorrow. I'm so sorry for everything, Alaric whispered, his voice choked with emotion. We didn't mean to forget you. We were lost. I know, their mother replied, her voice filled with compassion. But now you have the chance to remember and to heal. The darkness that once threatened you has been vanquished by the light of your love, and by the bravery of a remarkable young woman. Alara felt a warmth spread through her chest at the acknowledgement. She had sought to help the twins, but in doing so, she had also discovered her own strength. The journey had transformed her, illuminating her path and giving her purpose. Together, we will rebuild, their mother continued, turning her gaze towards Alara. You have brought my children back to me, and for that, I am eternally grateful. The love we shared will never fade, and it will guide you all as you walk forward into the light. As their mother's spirit began to fade, a sense of peace enveloped the room. Remember, my loves, you are never alone. The light will always find you, no matter how dark the night. With those final words, she disappeared, leaving behind a lingering warmth that filled the chamber with a sense of hope and renewal. Alara watched as the twins slowly stepped back from the space where their mother had stood, their expressions a mixture of joy and sorrow. What do we do now? Lilith asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Alara stepped forward, her heart brimming with compassion. Now, we begin to heal. Together, we'll reclaim this manor, turning it from a place of darkness into a sanctuary of light. We can honor your mother's memory by filling these walls with laughter and love once again. The twins exchanged glances, a newfound determination shining in their eyes. You're right, Alaric said, his voice steady. We can make this place beautiful again. With a shared sense of purpose, they began to clean the chamber, clearing away the remnants of darkness and decay. As they worked, Alara felt a sense of camaraderie forming between them, a bond forged in shared experience and mutual understanding. Outside, the sun continued to rise, casting golden light across the garden. The flowers, once neglected, began to bloom under the nurturing rays, their vibrant colors reflecting the hope that had blossomed within the manor's walls. As the day unfolded, Alara, Alaric, and Lilith worked side by side, transforming Blackwood Manor into a place of warmth and joy. They painted the walls, planted new flowers in the garden, and filled the rooms with laughter and stories. As the weeks turned into months, the manor began to thrive once more. The echoes of the past no longer held them captive. Instead, they became a source of strength and resilience. Alara found herself not just as a caretaker of the manor, but as a part of a family, a bond that transcended bloodlines. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the garden, the three of them sat on the porch, reflecting on their journey. "I can't believe how far we've come," Lilith said, her voice filled with wonder. "It feels like a dream." "It's a beautiful dream," Alaric replied, a smile spreading across his face. "And we have the power to make it a reality every single day." Alara smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over her. "Together, we can create a future filled with love and light. We've already conquered the darkness. Now we can build something extraordinary." As they sat together, the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, a reminder of the countless possibilities that lay ahead. The shadows had been banished, and in their place blossomed a new beginning, a life filled with love, laughter, and the promise of brighter days. And as the moon rose high above Blackwood Manor, Alara knew that they had not just reclaimed a home, they had reclaimed their lives, their hearts, and their destinies. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their commitment to honor the love that had brought them back from the brink. The journey was far from over, but as long as they stood together, there was nothing they could not overcome. The light had triumphed, and they were ready to embrace the future, hand in hand, heart to heart.